Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our last Power Half Hour community event uh, for the quarter for Q1. Wow, Q1 is almost done. Uh, I'm Adam. I'm on the content community team here at Klue. I'm also just laughing because I'll break the third wall here. I'm looking at our run of show and I just see event image and house vibe music will be playing. So that's what's been going on. Everyone, we're going how to secure and run a win-loss interview, and we've got two of the best in the business at Klue doing that. In between, let's hear where people are coming from. We do our regular who is in the most tropical location right now. And yes, let me see. Sorry, I'm getting reverb in my ears right now. 1 second. Okay, we're back. We're back. Um, So let me know where you're tuning in from right now. And let's get up on stage to the two guests you're actually here for, Jen Doyle and Aldona Die. Jen, Jen, maybe share a little bit of the backstory of what's going on the last 15 minutes or so before we hopped on, because there's nothing more fun than some technical difficulties before a live event.
Oh, yes, in the town of Norwell, Massachusetts. So I got a call, briefly before the internal team was gonna be jumping on from the school saying there was a fire in my son's school, in the cafeteria, an electrical fire, which might also impact local internet service. So my husband is rushing to the school to pick up my son, and I have my mobile hotspot prepared in case needed. And so if I go out at any point, just know I'll be right back. I'll jump on the hotspot, and we'll be here, but never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. We're doing this live. Aldona, can we rely on you for some safety tech if we both go down? Because I'm getting about eight. I could hear myself about 8 times over when we went live there too. We've got fires happening. Can we rely on you? Are you going to keep this ship afloat?
So far, so good. I'll do what I can.
Okay, let's I like to drop kind of a question related to what we're talking about today, which is one that I hear so much from the community, from our customers, and it's about securing and then running a win-loss interview. So, in the chat, biggest challenge when it comes to recruiting for a win-loss interview. Let me know what that biggest challenge is. I'm gonna flip that one over to you, Aldona. And you know what, as well, favorite win-loss interview question that I'll ask Jen after this too, and people in the chat can reply to that as well. So, Aldona, biggest challenge you've seen when it comes to recruitment?
Getting internal buy-in, making sure the team is aligned and everyone wants the win-loss program and knows what they have to do in order to execute a successful one.
And Jen, favorite win-loss question?
There are so many win-loss questions that I love, so this is such a tough choice for me, but I actually have a slide on this too, and I really think that my favorite win-loss question goes something like, "That's really interesting, tell me more about that." The reason I like this question is because, it validates the target, it compliments them, and I like that it welcomes them to elaborate more, and it makes them feel comfortable in sharing the insights that they've already shared. I'm letting them know that what they're saying is great stuff, and it's exactly the stuff we're trying to look for and capture, and then I'm digging, because the most important questions in a win-loss interview are those follow-ups and those digs. It's not just enough to give a high-level, broad answer. We need the specifics, we need the details. So the tell me more represents the digging. There are certainly a number of other great questions that I have on my slides. You know, you certainly want to nail down the drivers, you want to nail down the criteria in every discussion, you want the win and loss decision. But most importantly, you really want to be digging for details and you really want to be following up and encouraging that person to elaborate.
I love that. Folks in the chat, drop your questions throughout. A lot of the pre-submitted questions, thank you for sending those, by the way. We've taken a look at, we'll be answering those throughout as well. But any questions you have, we'll make sure that Jen and Aldona get to those as well. So, yeah, drop them away. And without further ado, I'm going to flip it over to you two.
All right. So here's our welcome slide, how to recruit and conduct a win-loss interview. And we're going to go to Aldona for the list first.
Yeah, great. So I'll kick it off. So I want to start by talking about making a win-loss target list that works for you. The target list is going to be one of the foundational building blocks of your win-loss program. Without a strong target list, that phrase like kind of garbage in, garbage out. Without a strong target list, you're not going to really get the insights that you're looking for. So hopefully I'm going to give you some tips to make sure your win-loss target list is aligned with your program goals. You can go next slide. All right. So like I said, yeah, win-loss target list is the foundational building blocks. And so to know that you have a strong target list, you're going to want to be able to just confidently say yes to these 3 questions. 1, do I have a clear learning objective? 2, have I segmented the deals in my CRM appropriately? And 3, do I have enough volume to support trend analysis? I'll dig a little bit deeper into these. And I have them laid out 1, 2, 3 here, but these should be really feeding off of each other and something you want to consider equally as you're going along. All right, next slide, please. So do I have a clear learning objective? So a strong target list, like a strong win-loss program, is going to start off with a clear learning objective. We like to use the thought framework, if I knew X, I could do Y, which would result in Z, where Z is a company goal or strategy, Y is an action that could accomplish that goal, and X is the sort of gaps in knowledge that you need to be able to do Y. X is going to be what you're trying to uncover in your win-loss program. And we did have a question from the community that was around, what do I do if sales is too busy to provide leads? And I really think this clear learning objective is going to be key here. If you can align your win-loss program to, like I said, a company goal or strategy, and really make that clear line of sight between the win-loss program and your objective, it's going to be a lot easier to gain buy-in and kind of overcome that like too busy objection. So next slide. 2, have I segmented the deals in my CRM appropriately? Easier said than done, but we have a few guidelines that are going to help you out when you're doing this and sorting through the massive amount of data in your CRM. Well, you're going to want to make sure you segment your deals that are aligned with your learning objectives. If you're trying to understand something about a certain region, a certain segment of the market, a certain product that you're offering, you're going to want to segment your deals to align with that scope. And then you're also going to want to target deals closed within 90 days or earlier. Those will have the freshest feedback. They're more likely to have the deal fresh in their mind. In the case of losses, you're going to want late stage losses, so they'll have as much touch points with you as possible and can provide the most comprehensive feedback. And then obviously deals where known competitors involved. These make the richest win-loss interviews. And if they've evaluated you alongside other competitors, they're going to be able to do a nice compare and contrast. That's going to be really helpful. And also, I just want to say on this point, segmenting the deals in the CRM is not everything. Like, CRM data is being what it is. It's messy. But you're going to want to segment this as much as possible before you bring it to like sales leadership or sales to further vet the list. You want to have that, again, that clear learning objective in mind when you bring the list. So your team knows how to suggest deals, how to know which deals to take off of the list. So your learning objective is clear to everyone who's involved. Next slide. And finally, do I have enough volume to support trend analysis? You want at least 10 interviews to be able to see trends. And you want to start off estimating that maybe about 1 in 5 folks you reach out to is going to book an interview. So with that in mind, you're going to want at least 50 qualified leads deals for the duration of your research period. If you have done your segmentation and you've really got your focus really crystal clear and you're not getting 50 deals, you may want to broaden your scope a little bit, extend the period of your research, or engage in some strategies to bump that conversion rate above 20%. And we did have a question come from the community around strategies to increase the interview conversion. And so if you go next slide, Jen, I think. Oh, yeah. So just to wrap up, you want to be able to say yes to these 3 questions. Do I have a clear learning objective? Have I segmented the deals in my CRM appropriately? And do I have enough volume? Then you're off to hit the races and reach out to your buyers, which is when you want to keep these strategies that I'm about to talk about in mind. So next slide, please. Yeah. Um, when you're reaching out to buyers, we got the question, is there any strategies you can employ other than providing an incentive, which we definitely recommend, and also reaching out more than 2 times, which we also recommend. Um, when you're recruiting, I think you want to keep these 2 points as real North Stars. If you're not able to achieve them right off the bat, they're going to want to be things you're going for as you mature your program. And this is that the strongest relationship makes the request. Usually that's the sales rep. And so as much as possible, getting sales involved, making the ask to their buyers, leveraging that relationship that they've already built is going to really help your conversion. Absent this, you're going to want to maybe leverage the importance of the ask. This is a targeted study. You want to learn something from it. And so your outreach should be, indicate that importance of their request, indicate why you're reaching out to this person in particular. It's not, thanks for your time, provide your feedback. It's more, we want to learn this. We value your feedback. We want to learn how to serve you, that kind of thing. So you want to leverage that kind of language. And also make sure the request is made as nearby to the close date as possible. Same with this 90-day window that I referred to earlier. The deal will be fresh in the buyer's mind, and they'll be more likely to, they've already been engaging with you. This is just like the final thing in the sales process. And then also I would just add, remain flexible. You're going to learn things about your buyers as you do this program. And then you're going to want to change your outreach approach accordingly. At Klue, we manage a lot of different customers across a lot of different fields. Buyers are in all of these different roles, and we do have a handful of strategies that we employ to make sure that the way we're reaching out reflects the industry the buyers are in, the maturity of the win-loss program, the availability of sales in our customers' organization, just making sure that we are flexible and adaptable and always have that goal of securing interviews top of mind. So, these are a lot of strategies. I think if you're going for these are going to be things that you want to kind of continuously strive for, and the more you can achieve them, the stronger your program is going to be.
All right. Thank you so much, Aldona. I will share, Aldona and I partner together on a lot of accounts here at Klue, and I can think of a number of examples where you've really knocked it out of the park doing all of those strategies. So they're very much earned. And so thank you. And I'm really glad you went first, because we're going to go into doing the perfect interview now. And we would all really argue that the perfect interview starts with a great list. And talking about some of those things that Aldona mentioned, having right fit buyers, having buyers who did serious evaluations, who took a thorough look at your product, who took a thorough look at the competitors. These are going to be the most knowledgeable buyers. And this is exactly who we want to talk to. And then my job as the interviewer is to really uncover that knowledge that those buyers have. I think there is a case for early funnel analysis, and I actually am doing some early funnel analysis for a couple of our customers here at Klue, and they're really great. But if you're just getting kicked off with win-loss, you're going to want to go by this typical model of doing those late-stage buyers who are going to be the most knowledgeable and give you the most feedback on your product, your competitors' products, and really why you're winning and losing. So I have the depth model I'd like to share with you all, and we've put this together on how to conduct the perfect win-loss interview. Really, when you're on the phone, you want to make sure you get them talking, and a lot of this methodology is just about that, getting the target to elaborate, getting them to share the knowledge that they have. We really want them to be talking way more than the person interviewing, like the differential in how much they're talking and how much I'm talking should be huge. I really like to get on and open up with really broad, open-ended questions And then most importantly, just listen really attentively and follow up on specific details using their words. So a good example of that might be if a buyer told me, there wasn't enough customization in the product. A good follow-up to that might be, you mentioned the product lacked customization. What areas did you want to customize that you couldn't? Also, another good follow-up would be, could you customize these areas with the competing product you evaluated? So you can see how that model of having a broad, open-ended question, repeating back what you're hearing, and then leading to more in-depth follow-up questions. It's kind of like that response I told Adam before. That's interesting. Tell me more. It's really that concept. So I do want to share with you the details of the depth model. We have details, of course. The devil is in the details, but also that's where the insights are. That's what we really want. We want to have the buyer engaged. We want to make the process personal. We want to establish and continue to build trust throughout the conversation. And we want to make sure the interviews are high impact and aligned to our learning objectives. So let's start with the details. And this is really about digging for details on key objectives that we have. We want to always be curious. We want to make sure we're always listening and always following up and asking questions about what was said previously. That way, we're not leading the discussion. We're simply digging and following up for additional details on what the buyer is leading with, right? Because we don't want to ask leading questions that make it seem like their answers might be really more important than they actually are, in that case, if they were led. So tell me specifically about this feature. Well, if they weren't talking about that feature when we asked them the open-ended question, that could make it a little misleading when you get your reporting back that this feature is more top of mind than it actually is. So you definitely always want to be following that model of a broad, open-ended question that then follows up and digs for details and doesn't lead the discussion. The buyer is leading the discussion. We are simply following up and getting more details from their lead, if that makes sense. So yes, can't be more important to be an active listener. Can't be more important to follow up in using their own words that resonate with them. There's an aspect of these interviews that's really psychological, and we're doing a lot of these tactics to encourage them, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel heard, to make them feel like they want to tell us more. And so that's what a lot of the depth model is about. That's interesting. Tell me more. I already talked about that. In a 30-minute win-loss interview, you'll really only have time for probably 10 to 15 really good questions. So keep that in mind and be selective about your questions and make them great. And you really don't want to ask people to commit more than 30 minutes of their time for these interviews too. So the next few slides I have are really going to talk more about engaging them, making it personal, and making sure they're still talking a lot and elaborating. So yes, dig deeper using those follow-up questions, focus on actionable insights that make efficient use of their time, and certainly let them know that you're being conscious of their time and you want to get their perspectives for the right course of action. So this was a question from the audience. We actually covered this earlier with the one question that yields the most insight, but I did have a little more detail on it. So my response was, that's interesting. Tell me more. But we do want to nail selection criteria and business drivers in every single interview without fail, because a lot of these deals come down to it wasn't right fit for my value, it wasn't right fit for my vision. So we definitely want to lock those in before we even ask for the win-loss reason. So in the case of a loss, a couple questions I really like for losses is what would have made the company's offering more interesting to you? It's just a way of flipping that loss reason, like why didn't you choose the company? And another follow-up might be what would have made this decision to go with this company a no-brainer? Again, just rephrasing the same thought might get new additional insights that way, and it might have a refreshed perspective. And this question was from Rob, and I think Rob is here attending. So Rob, thank you for submitting your question. And also I wanted to note on these questions, as you think about the interviews, a lot of new people embarking on win loss. They think it's all about the losses, and I would definitely want to say, like, definitely do the wins too. Wins can be huge for securing buy-in, like Aldona was talking about. Giving those good accolades to the team can give them a reason to want to keep doing the program. It can make them feel positive about the program. But not only that, but every win interview that you have is actually your competitor's loss interview, and you'll get unique insights on those gaps and those weaknesses that exist in your competitors. Okay, so engage. We definitely want to engage with the buyer, and this can be a little bit of a dicey area where a buyer is providing negative feedback about your company. Or like me, if you're a third party, they might be sharing some negative feedback about the client and the customer. And so it's very important to empathize with this feedback, but not necessarily validate it. I'm not necessarily agreeing with them that a huge ball was dropped, if that's what they're talking about, for example. You want to stay neutral. You're a neutral party, and you want to say something like, "Thank you for sharing that. That's really good feedback for the team to get. Can you tell me more about that?" So it's about being empathetic and validating that they have a problem, but also, encouraging them to share a little bit more, and you want to flatter them and be grateful. Also, when you're thinking about engaging, keep your camera on. It's people talking to people, so this always really helps. So we had another question, which was from Raphael, on how to define how many interviews are needed on B2B. I think Aldona addressed this earlier. We look for a minimum of 10, and I think more recently we're actually bumping that up to be a minimum of 12 because we really find that's more helpful to even get more trends and have always on win-loss. So about always on win-loss, some people that I speak with who are new to win-loss think of win-loss as a program or a project rather, and we like to encourage the fact that it's a program. It should be ongoing, and you really want to be keeping your win-loss always on so that you can be timely with reactions and emerging trends. Because if you just do it as a project and then you turn it off, things can change at any time. So that's our main idea there. When we think about keeping it personal, people buy from people, and these conversations are very personal. They're just people talking to people. So we want to make sure that we're being personable, we're being friendly, we smile, we make them feel welcome, we compliment them, we want them to feel heard. All of these things come into play because these conversations do get into a little bit of the psychological aspect of humans talking to humans, right? You want to make sure they feel comfortable to elaborate, and encourage those personal passions in the points of the conversation where they exist. Some of these buyers, they get on the phone, they really have something to say that they're really passionate about, and definitely want to encourage that passion because that's sometimes where you get the really good stuff. Also consider roles. So if you're talking to a very senior level buyer, you might not be able to get that detailed end user type of feedback if that's what you're looking for. So if you're really wanting end user feedback and people who are in the trenches and using the product every day, consider the roles that you're interviewing. And again, that goes back to the list and the fact that the perfect interview starts with a great list. We did have a question, what is a good blend? On being personal, what is a good blend of customer profiles one should invite while conducting a win-loss interview? And that's exactly what I was just kind of talking about, is thinking about those roles and how they align to your objectives. So with a more senior buyer, you're going to get more of budgeting. You're going to get more of, if they are actually the budget holder, and if you are concerned about pricing and budgeting. So we want to make sure that we're talking to people who are actually involved in those things. If you want that really rich product feedback, we really need to be sure we're talking to end users. So it's definitely important to think about titles and roles. But I will say a lot of programs kick off with a number of different roles included, and we can work with that. That's definitely good to work with too, because that can give you some areas where you want to uncover and dive into in the future and say, hey, we saw some interesting things coming up from these budget holders. Let's do a cohort just on budget holders. So I wouldn't want to rule anyone out right from the get-go, if that makes sense. Trust, always very important. Being a third party can be helpful with that. It can be helpful to help people share. Sometimes, that constructive feedback can be difficult to share direct with companies. So that's one area where a third party can be helpful. If you're doing it yourself, you can still establish that kind of trust. Just explain how much you really want the open feedback and your value transparency, and that you're looking for continuous effort. So continuous improvement. And then, we certainly always have GDPR and other types of compliance always at play. And with the incentives that you offer for the interviews, make sure you always ask first. You don't want to get anyone in trouble with a company policy there. And then, yep, so I covered those. So my last area is coming up next. And I did have this question on building internal buy-in, which we talked about earlier with Aldona. And I talked a little bit as well about sharing those win interviews. I think those can be really important in helping with buy-in, sharing those win stories, and also just internally having sort of a clean slate of open-mindedness. And it's okay if we uncover mistakes of the past because we're looking to improve the future type of idea. On high impact, we're really wanting to align the interviews with the learning objectives. That's all about being high impact. And I included some sampling of common objectives that you can use and refer to on your own as you develop your interview strategy. So we can go to questions. I think we have a few minutes for questions. I believe Adam's going to jump in and help us with that.
We're back. We're back. Thank you both so much. I'm going to jump right into a question and not dilly-dally here, and then I will share some exciting updates for folks as well. First question, what to do when sales is too busy to provide targets for interviews? That was from Jacques over at 8 and 8, 8 by 8.
Yeah, so I got that one a little bit earlier. But yeah, that too busy objective, I think one of the best counters for that is really aligning your program with like larger scale goals for your company, just so that the why of the win-loss program is really clear. Everyone knows what the ultimate goal is and can understand what their role is in achieving those goals. So that's would be a big piece for getting buy-in. And then, also overcoming that I'm too busy for this. It turns it less from like, oh, here's another task for you to do. And like, hey, this is what you need to do. We need to like accomplish this goal. And you have this small role in doing so.
Nice. I've got a great question here from Sandra. There's also been some great comments. Jason, appreciate some of the shout outs and like commentary to sort of positive and negative themes and how you can utilize them. I'm going to ask this question, but before I do so, I know there are customers in attendance today. And since we're in the Compete community, we do have an always on form component now, customer convos, which is a space where you can connect with Jen and Aldona after the fact, other customers. There's like ways to communicate with one another, drop your questions after the fact. There's AMAs, there's a ton in there. Only for customers, it's exclusive, but you can check that out on your tab. You should be able to see combos. I wanted to give that plug quickly for folks that are here. Last question to take us away was from Sander. How do you share insights from the win-loss program?
I can take that one. As broadly and openly as possible would be the ideal. We really want the win-loss findings to go throughout the organization to all the major departments. We want it to go to marketing, product, sales, and start with the leadership too. But we definitely want everyone to be regularly seeing win-loss analysis and learning from it. But one thing we see here is like you don't want to have a knee-jerk reaction necessarily to one report or two reports. So make sure you're focusing on trends with executive summary analysis. Maybe quarterly is a good pace for those. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the trends too and not just one report.
I wanted to add on Jason's take here, Jason over at Hexagon. Positive and negative sentiment, sales can really capitalize on the positives and execs can capitalize on the negatives to make stronger strategic improvement decisions and opportunities across the full board. So I liked that kind of that color from Jason as well as it relates to this. Folks in attendance, there will be all the slides will be out to you. And next month, we have Ryan Sorley, best-selling author of Blind Spots, which I'll spoil as well. He'll be walking through specifically how you can set up your win-loss program get it back on track or stand it up very effectively. And he's also doing 2 workshops in London and Boston. So if anyone is located there, it will be free. And we'll be doing a workshop, Ready Go workshop, as well as a happy hour social and book sign where you get a free copy of his brand new book. So what free book and getting to learn from customers and one of the best in the business. So a lot of awesome things happening in the community. And as I mentioned as well, if you're a customer, go check out the convo section. There's a ton of customers, champions, and Klue experts willing to share their wisdom, and you can access it on demand whenever it works best for you. So stoked for that. I really appreciate both of you coming on and sharing this Friday. We had a couple of tech issues, but hey, we made it through, and I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone in attendance for engaging in the chat.